I'm back. A lot has changed. It's been over 5 years since I filmed a video. I'm now in graduate school, finished undergraduate, moved back to Virginia, and am now doing a master's in computer science in Virginia. But that's sort of like the side gig. The main gig for me right now is traveling as much as I can and as much as I can afford. So when I saw a flight for less than $1,000 round trip on United from the East Coast of the US to Auckland, New Zealand, I knew I couldn't pass it up, even if it was in the middle of the semester. So that's just what I did. In February, I booked a trip just a week before on an impulse and just said, let's do it. Let's go to Auckland, New Zealand. And yeah, I recorded a little bit and want to show you all what I did. So let's go. Once I got to Auckland, I headed immediately to the Central Business District, which is where I was staying, dropped my bags off at the hotel and took a look around. Luckily for me, there was the Auckland Fried Chicken Festival going on right when I was there. So I had some tasty fried chicken, some Japanese style and some Indian style or Thai style fried chicken.
That's really good.
Then took a little bit more walking around, saw the New Zealand All Blacks Museum, or rather just went to the store there, then stumbled upon a Lunar New Year festival right nearby the hotel after walking around a little bit more. And after that, just went to check into my hotel and take a little bit of rest for a few hours. After that, I decided to go take a hike to the top of Mount Eden, which is, I think, the biggest volcano in Auckland. Auckland has a lot of volcanoes around it. This is, I think, the biggest, and you can see throughout the city, you can see the TV tower really well, and see also a lot of the suburbs all around the city. It is a volcano, so you can actually see where the crater is. The crater is all covered in grass now, but just the size of it is huge. I spent about an hour at Mount Eden before heading back, and at the end of the night, I saw a comedy show. Laughed a lot of times, maybe not as much as the locals, because I didn't really fully understand all of the sort of niche local references. The next day, it was up bright and early at 6 a.m., which is why you don't see many videos of my face. Took a little road trip in a small group down to Rotorua in the middle of the North Island. Along the way, saw the Waitomo glowworm caves. They didn't let us take videos or pictures inside, but got those shots as we were heading outside of the caves. And then took a little bit of the shots of the forest surrounding us. It reminded me a lot of North America and Europe, but I knew I was in the Southern Hemisphere and it was summer instead of winter. Then the big attraction of the day was heading to Rotorua in the middle of the North Island to see Tapuia, which is basically the equivalent of Yellowstone in the US. Tapuia has a lot of things along with it. It has a Maori arts and crafts center, which I found really interesting, and our tour guide was amazing. We also saw kiwis, which is very important when you go to New Zealand. These are the mud baths at Tapuia. And then finally, we get to the sort of centerpiece, why everything is here, why we're going here, which is the Tapuia geysers. I think there are like 3 main geysers. They have names. I think one's the Prince Albert. I might be wrong. We timed it so that we were getting sort of the mini splashes. And by the way, it does stink as much as you can imagine, like rotten eggs and farts, but you sort of get used to it. Apparently, the waters by the baths, because there's a lot of geothermal activity, are very nice, and so it's like a traditional wellness vacation spot. We timed it so that we sort of got the medium-sized geysers, and just as we were leaving, the main geyser sort of erupted a little bit more. On our way back, we saw these sheep, or are they rams? I don't know. And finally got back to Auckland around 5 p.m. Still had a little bit of time before the sun set to go explore a little bit more. Headed to the waterfront and found a nice Asian street market that was right on the water. There's no Chinatown in Auckland, so I was very excited to stumble upon this Asian street market and decided to eat as much as I could pay for. First stop was some squid. I think, like, I don't want to say teriyaki, but had a teriyaki-ish flavor, then some dim sum, which was very good, and finally the star of the show for me were chicken feet. I don't really know what I was expecting, but there are bones in chicken feet, so it was very bony. But after that, I headed in for the night and had a little bit of an early night before the next day. So now we're on to my third and final full day in Auckland, and I knew I wanted to do something special, and I think the clips that I'm about to show are pretty self-explanatory, so I'm just going to shut up and show you them.
Skydiving today, aren't we? Why are you doing this?
Just for fun.
Yeah.
Why not?
100%. Tick it off the bucket list.
Yeah.
Well, happy days.
Skydiving was as fun as I thought it would be. Didn't really have any nerves or anything, was just excited to be doing it, and it was really fun. Got up to, I think, 13,000 feet in the air. The only bad part is after you've pulled the parachute, when the harness sort of pulls up on you, wasn't as comfortable, but free fall felt exhilarating, really wasn't scary at all. It was just sort of exciting for the 60 seconds or so that you're up in the air. After that, I did my patriotic duty as an American and watched the 49ers unfortunately lose in the Super Bowl and Taylor Swift be very happy and blah, blah, blah. Then took the ferry across the water to Devonport, which is a part of Auckland. Reminds me a lot of Sausalito in the Bay Area, across from San Francisco, similar vibes. Devonport also had a volcano that I climbed the next morning before leaving. And got some pretty views of the skyline of the central business district, and in the back you can see where I was a few days ago on Mount Eden. Took in the last few hours here in Auckland and in New Zealand before taking the ferry back to central Auckland, and then took the train back to the airport.
The next train departing on platform 3 is a Southern Line service to Papakura.
Part of the reason why, as I mentioned earlier, I went to Auckland was because the prices were so cheap. I ended up paying $970 in total. Half of that was miles that I spent, so 45,000 miles on United. The other half I paid in cash. I thought that was a great deal and just something I couldn't pass up. I headed back to the airport with the train. Pretty convenient. There's a bus at the end, which is also fairly convenient. One of the highlights for me, weirdly enough, was at the airport heading home, the Air New Zealand lounge. I had access to it because I had achieved Star Alliance Gold starting this January, and this was the first trip I took with Star Alliance Gold, and just was so excited to do it. It was funny that they were turning all of the United business class passengers away to a different lounge, but I, with Star Alliance Gold, was able to get into the Air New Zealand flagship lounge and had a great time. A few highlights there. The bar was a full bar with an actual cocktail list, specialty cocktails that were super delicious. Also had some champagne, which I think is obligatory. I also had some food. Other than that, spent like 2-ish hours at the lounge, had a nice rest before getting on my flight. It's a 13-hour flight, so I was a little bit worried about the length of time I'd be spending on an airplane, but actually the timing when the flights take off is super convenient. My flight to Auckland from San Francisco leaves at 11:30 p.m. San Francisco time, so I just went to sleep right away, slept the most amount of time I've ever slept on an airplane, which was about 9 hours. Really good sleep. missed meals, but didn't really care about that. On the way back, the flight leaves around 4 p.m. in the afternoon Auckland time and lands at 7 a.m. in the morning in San Francisco. So you are losing a day going to Auckland, but gaining a good day going back. And ultimately, the flights were no big deal, was comfy enough in economy. Landed early in the morning in San Francisco to some beautiful views. And at this point, I was totally tired, totally wiped out. So that was my less than 96 hours in Auckland, New Zealand. It was a quick trip, but I think I got a lot out of it and was really pleased at everything that I was able to accomplish. That's all for this video. Hope you enjoyed, and stay tuned for more videos from my travels for the rest of the year coming up hopefully soon. See ya.